Welcome back, friends, enemies, and everyone in between. We are discussing Stargirl. That's right, episode 3 of the 3rd season, the one all about a murder mystery. Who did it? Who done it? Who died? Who's going to die? And all of our characters are generally in high school. So let's talk about this latest episode. There will be spoilers, so if that's not your thing, kindly come back later or just let me know what you think without seeing the episode. Let's crack along. So this one's entitled The Blackmail, and in the first episode we found out the gambler was murdered. I don't think he's going to be the only murder victim that is in this season. Hell, we're not even 100% sure he's dead for good, but at the end of this episode, somebody else may be dead, although I have thoughts on that and I don't think that is the case. The second episode was entitled The Suspects, and we went through a litany of mostly other bad guys, but possibly a couple of the people on the good side who may be involved in this murder. And this one is entitled The Blackmail, and we finally, I say finally, it was only brought up at the end of last episode, so it's not really that long, but we learn that the Crocs were actually not talking about the murder of the gambler when they said they're going to find us out very soon. They are talking about the blackmail the gambler was extorting against them. I'm not sure if that's the correct way to phrase that. In essence, while they were in the ISA and afterwards, he was extorting money from them on a monthly basis, and suddenly he stopped, gave all the money back, and said he had a change of heart basically because of this whole switcheroo where he was trying to track down his daughter. And they found that incredibly suspicious. Why would he do this? There must have been some other motive, some other means, some other end that he was up to. So Sportsmaster went to the trailer park before he was killed, was going to confront him, thought better of it, and peeled out, and that was the car that was driving away earlier. At least that is his story. Now we find out later on in this episode that Sylvester is given this piece of information by Cindy, who has the laptop of the gambler and is not sharing this information with the rest of the team. So what is she up to? Does she have some nefarious plans of her own? Is she trying to help from the sidelines because she realizes she can't be of the correct help because our team really isn't buying her act? If it is an act, I don't know. It's still a little shady what she's doing. She seems to be playing both sides of the fence, especially when she goes to Sylvester and gives him the information while he's alone and asks him to do an attack on the Crocs with her. I think she's trying to set herself up a little higher than she is right now, but that doesn't negate the fact that she is trying to do good and is trying to help. I think she's trying to be maybe more of a vigilante type, playing outside the rules, but still trying to get the correct outcome in the end of things. It is very interesting to see her play a bigger role. She did send the information to Beth as well with Beth's new fancy goggles that she got from Dr. Midnight. Beth and Hourman, so the new Dr. Midnight and the new Hourman, they really have been sidelined this season. We're 3 episodes in and they've basically done nothing. I mean, they're there. They've gotten a couple brief scenes each, but the focus of the episodes really is back onto Stargirl, which makes sense. It is her show. And Starman, who has now come in. Not even so much Pat. There's been a decent amount given to the Crocs, and there was a decent amount given to the gambler while he was still alive, which makes sense. You want to give something to the person that's going to be vital to the entire storyline. But there hasn't been much to go around for a lot of our supporting characters, and I do hope that changes going forward. There weren't many new leads. There was the same lead, the big growl and some sort of giant force, because as Sylvester finds out when he visits the trailer alone without the cosmic staff due to some personal growth, he is attacked, he is flung into the sky, he is smashed to the ground, seemingly killed. I don't think that's the case. I think he's either going to be mortally injured and that's going to take him out of a few episodes while he heals up, or I think whatever super cosmic radiation power that's bringing him back to life to begin with is going to flow through his veins and heal him up before anyone even finds him. And that's going to be a mystery for us, the viewer, to know that the other characters might not be on board with. Also, obviously, the person who did that to him will know, and Mr. Bones will know, because as we see in this episode, he is 99% sure, at least, he is the one monitoring all of these cameras that are placed around the various homes and various houses and various locations important to Blue Valley. Do I know for certain it's him? No, they didn't show him from the front, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're alluding to. Also, Just because he's the one viewing these cameras and these monitors does not mean he is the one responsible. Perhaps these were installed by the ISA originally and he's just tapping into the feed. Perhaps the real criminal set these up and he just happens to be tapped into the feed. Perhaps these were set up for other monitoring reasons and have nothing to do with the murder of the gambler. I don't know. So here I'm going to start by throwing out a random theory in the midst of this video. I think they're trying to allude to the fact that this murderer must be a Grundy of some sort. I don't think that's the case unless, as I mentioned in a previous video, someone is inhabiting his body using psychic powers, telepathic powers to control his body, a la Brainwave. Could it be the disembodied presence of Brainwave taking over the body of Grundy to do this? That's a little out there. I'm going to go ahead and throw out there that maybe it is a dragonized form of Dragon King come back as some sort of fully bestial version of himself with a possible transference of the mind of the original Dragon King. So in my mind, I think he may have had some failsafe, some backup in case of his death, where his mind was being transferred to God knows what, some machinery, some sort of backup body. Maybe the only body he had backed up is a more feral, bestial, dragonized or lizardized, hulking creature, and he's been hiding out in the woods with his sort of mental state still intact, but not a real body to do any science or do anything of note. Partly, I believe that might be the case because Cindy is trying to crack into the ISA laptop and she's doing some experimental things as well. I don't know if that's because she has more information about the status of her father. For all I know, she took some sort of potion, some sort of concoction, and I don't know if that was to give her more strength, or perhaps it's stabilizing her. Perhaps there's some sort of built-in genetic weakness that Dragon King was, every so often giving her a stopgap cure to. I don't know how many of you may have seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but the Dominion bred genetically into their Jem'Hadar soldiers a genetic need for a drug called Ketracel White. So as long as their army, in essence, took this drug, they would stay healthy and loyal to the Dominion. The problem is, if they don't take the drug, they die. Their body needs it, they cannot produce it on its own, they will die without it. So it's some sort of failsafe where they can't run off and disobey their masters because they will die. Perhaps something similar was built into Cindy, and without Dragon King in her life, she's got to scramble to try and cure herself, scramble to take this concoction as often as possible so that she doesn't die. I'm wondering if that might be what's going on with her. That's why she's kind of playing both teams against each other, keeping everyone at arm's distance, but still trying to do the right thing. What's going on with Starman? He's still having all sorts of hot and cold flashes, I guess you could say. Some very bipolar behavior. Is it truly all 100% him, or are there kind of dueling personalities? It seems like the theme of this season, as well as the murder mystery, is going to be personal growth and dealing with kind of moving through your own personal problems. I think that's obviously what's going on with a lot of our characters, and possibly even ones we haven't seen. Things like, the very crux of the first episode is the gambler realized he has a daughter. He's trying to change his ways. We've got Courtney trying to grow up and deal with her stuff. We've got Starman back from the dead trying to deal with his personal issues. And he's trying to, right now, find something for himself to do outside of Starman. He's trying to find a life for Sylvester, which is not something he ever really had. There was a great confrontation between him and Pat, where he basically yells at Pat for, why did you stop me from beating up the Crocs? You're my freaking sidekick. And Pat's like, no, I'm your friend. I'm not your sidekick anymore. It's been a long time since I was anyone's sidekick, Buster. That was a great moment between them. But it keeps seeming like Sylvester is learning and moving past things and then falling right back into his old violent, dickish, bastardy ways. Granted, at the end of the episode, he gets beaten to a pulp, and for all we know, he's dead. I really, really, really don't think that they would kill him off that way. Or if they do, if he is dead, he's not out for the count, because there are strange things afoot, especially with the life force that's inhabiting this Starman at this point. We also have to deal with the end of the cosmic staff, where it came from, who it's going to truly respond to. And if we kill him off and that's it for him, we've never really resolved that situation between Sylvester and Courtney that definitely Courtney needs to deal with. She needs that reassurance. She needs that to build herself into the Stargirl she's meant to be. Whether or not Sylvester will get the closure he needs, I don't know. But I think the whole point of this is to allow both of them to come to terms with who and what they are and move forward into the world in a good way. Possibly that will lead to Sylvester moving forward into the afterlife or whatever to finally lay down his life for real, but that has not happened yet, in my opinion. What else did we see? Well, we got a great action scene, a great fight between the Crocs and Starman at the grocery store. That's something that had been missing so far this season. It's probably the first great battle we've had. And we also got to see the giant mecha robot Stripes have a little appearance. He didn't actually do anything to fight. He came in to referee and stop it. But it's great to see that giant robot in action instead of just sitting there in the garage. So like I said, we still have a lot of missing action between some of the main characters. I do hope that... Oh, I didn't even mention Yolanda. She barely got any play in this episode. Right at the beginning, she, in her waitress form, came to talk to Sylvester about how the original Ted Grant Wildcat would have thought of her. And Sylvester basically told her, you know what? He would have loved you. You're harsh on the bad guys. You don't take any guff from them. And you're not buying their stories. He was a tough guy, but I think he would have liked you. So that was nice. She's already got the blessing. Whether or not he was trying to manipulate her, that's probably also part of it. But it was a great scene to kind of build that confidence Yolanda has really been missing since the very beginning. She's been a very troubled person emotionally, and we got to see a lot of that in season 2 especially. So it's great for her to kind of build her own inner confidence in herself based on the heroes of the past. And I kind of think that's a theme that'll be running throughout this season, where our younger characters will finally move into their own and accept the responsibility and actually trust in themselves a lot more than they have been. We really didn't get much more closure on who the murder suspect, at least the main one, is, but we did get a lot more things added into the story, and I would hate for them to kind of disclose that this early. I do know I mentioned earlier in my videos that I do want them to move things along each episode instead of, mystery boxing 10 episodes in, but they're doing a good job of adding new things, cutting off other threads, and moving the story along at a decent pace, at least in my opinion so far. And things could falter as we move along. We're only 3 episodes in, but so far I'm liking the pace. It doesn't feel like the other 2 seasons whatsoever, so I'm very curious to find out what anyone else might be thinking of this show. But in my opinion right now, even though it's not necessarily a superhero feeling show at the moment, it is a great feeling show, and I'm very much enjoying this season. So until next time, keep on shining.